Obe-san, good morning to you in New York, right?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Dr. Mohan.
Yeah, I am here in India, Mumbai. It is quarter to nine on what is it, Wednesday? So
Yes, sir.
thanks. This is probably the fourth episode that you're doing with me. First, we did, I think, structure of TPS. Then we talked about TPS and Japanese culture. Third, we did Nimawashi. And today you're going to talk to us. I don't know what you're going to talk to us, but let me introduce you first. So standard.
Yes, sir.
Standard work. So the standard work always happens this way. Okay, so there we go. I'm really wondering what you're going to say, and you're looking up and saying that, okay, Dr. M, I'll tell you what it is, and you're on the 44th episode, Obe-san. And last time you came, everybody knows you by now, Obe. You were born in, I will always try to pronounce it correctly, Nagoya, correct?
Nagoya, yes, sir. Nagoya,
Yes,
Japan.
and that is where Toyota is there, and you were born and brought up there. 20 years there, working with Toyota production system. You're so authentic, and you have been in all sort of industries, automobile engineering, food, across various countries except India. And I was hoping, when are you coming to India? I invite everybody, but people don't seem to come to India. But I promise you, I'll give you good food and with full of energy. Okay, and I'll take you around in a Toyota car. So then,
Yes, I've been to India.
yeah, I've been to India, but not on Dr. M's invitation. So this time you're on Dr. M's invitation. So this is what you covered in the 30th episode when you talked about introduction to the structure thinking of Toyota production system, and we introduced the respect for people. And this is where you taught us points, line, areas, and body, and in the body, mechanism, system, and structure. And there, the best I remember, I got a good memory. Mechanism is very, very tight. There's hardly any possibility for flexibility there. But however, as you go into systems and structure, it becomes a little more comfortable for people to experiment, etc. At that point of time. That's the best that I understood. Now, within that framework, you're going to tell us now about these 4 S's, which I have no clue what it is, and you're going to tell us is, if I pronounce it right, Shuruki, Shoruki, the first one?
Shoriki.
Shuriki.
Shoriki.
Shojin. Shojin. Shojin.
Shojin, yes, sir.
All the only thing, the strokes in the kanji words have moved, and you're a best. And you're going to talk to us within that structure, the philosophy behind people power. That's what you're going to talk to us about. And thank you very much for coming on Dr. M's podcast, and you are on Dr. M's podcast. So I'm going to stop sharing, and over to you, Obe-san.
Yes, sir.
There we go.
So, Dr. M, thank you for this opportunity. I think we started this discussion based on the presentation I made in the LinkedIn before.
Yes.
About talking about the Shoriki, Shojin, and Shojin.
Yeah.
All of them has a very similar sound.
Yeah.
I think a lot of TPS concept, the production system, calls it a Japanese joke or pun that sounds similar but makes a big difference. And I think, typically speaking, they use this kind of jokes when they're trying to be cautious or they're trying to get the attention in the Japanese community to start thinking about it. And I collected those words and tried to create a discussion here. What are the basic thinking behind, philosophy behind the people power? And that's our discussion point for this hour.
Yeah.
So the production system has talks about many concepts, a lot of Japanese word, and it's sometimes confusing because it's confusing for the Japanese people as well. And to understand, I really need to talk to the expert. I got the honor to do that, and not just talking with them, but also working with them, being live on the Gemba, help me understand these concepts a little bit. And I'm trying to organize that. And, very often when we say TPS, a lot of people talk about total, it's not Toyota production system anymore, it's total people system.
Wow.
Because people is the most important asset in the system. They respect the people very well. But what that means inside the system is vaguely defined. And I think we need to have additional conversation on this topic. And that's why we are starting this discussion. What is total people system? And I think everyone will agree that, well, how can we maximize the power of the people? People can be creative. People can be very humble, continuously improve. How can I maximize the capability of the people is the biggest question that I think the Toyota people are asking themselves and practicing every day. So today, we want to go together about this philosophy. And just like you said before, I'm always using this points, lines, areas, and body, and also this mechanism, system, structure as my framework to understand any concepts or any philosophy that Toyota is talking about. Today, I will focus more on this mechanism and system side because I think this concept is very philosophical. But when we go to the shop floor, there's always some points and lines that structure these concepts. And always there's a difference in exact location or exact presence of these points on the show floor. That's what I learned from my coaches on TPS. And to understand this concept today, I will use the mechanism, system, and the structure concept. And to understand better on how does Toyota or TPS people think about the people power, is I summarized these 4 words that appears on the Taichi Ono's Toyota production system books. And those 4 words sounds extremely similar, even in Japanese. And there's a lot of confusing in Japanese side too. And it's very complex, but let me try to organize it, right? And those 4 words are shoriki, shojin, shojin, shojin. So last 3 of them pronounce exactly the same. The only difference are in the symbols, the Chinese symbols that we use. The first one, I don't know if I can point this on this, but first one has this letter that means elimination of power. The second one has elimination of people. The third one means less people. And the last one is little man, little people. So I want to take time to explain each one of them with some visualization so that we can understand what the heck are we trying, because most of these words are created by Ono-san. First one is shoriki. It means reduction of power. The direct translation will be reduction of power or elimination of power. But here, let's just say that it means reduction of burdens, extra, unnecessary, sometimes waste power that required to do work. And that takes the people power away to be used in a negative way. And that's why we want this power to be free. And you can do that by automation or Kaizen. Toyota loves to do by Kaizen. So even when you are lifting up the heavy material, they will implement Kaizen called karakuri. They might use like a counterweight to, so instead of lifting up heavy stuff, they use the counterweight to offset the weight so that you are not necessarily using a full force to lift it up. It becomes far more easy to pick it up. This kind of Kaizen is becoming really important for Japan right now because, as you know, it's one of the aged population, and the workforce of the over there is getting high. So you can't ask people to lift heavy things anymore, and that's why this kind of counterweight is a great solution. It doesn't require, additional energy to be supplied to the machine, so it becomes very flexible and cheap to use, and that's why they like Kaizen to do it. But both methodology can be used to use the Shoriki. When it comes to safety and quality, I mean, lifting heavy stuff is definitely part of the safety issue. Using automation should be discussed more carefully. I mean, we love Kaizen, but in such cases that it's impossible for the human being to do, we have to use machineries, automations. And that's why I'm focusing here is we must eliminate the muri, the overburden of the people. We cannot overburden the people, and that should be used. Shoriki must be done to eliminate the muri in the process.
Yeah, Obe-san.
So, yes, sir.
Obe-san, just one query. This Suruki, if I'm pronouncing the word right, you said reduction of power. So is power the same thing as reduction of energy required? Physical energy required? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, by people.
By people.
So energy required by, right, because because sometimes the weight of the product doesn't change, but if I have a counterweight to lift it up,
yes,
right, the total amount of force doesn't change, but it's now human power plus the counterweight.
Yes,
right.
You know,
traditionally it's only human power.
Yes. Now, why I'm asking you this, Obe-san, is the minute you say power, many of us who are in the Gemba, etc., we talk about empowerment, but that empowerment is different from the power that you're talking here. The power here is how to reduce the use of physical energy. Correct? Am I understanding you right?
Or negative power. How to eliminate the negative power here. I think they are focusing on that side. How to make people think is connected to the last one. And they are not talking about reducing that positive empowerment of people. They want to have more of that. And that's what I think it will connect to the force, the concept of shoji, the little man. They don't want to do that, and I will get back to that point.
Okay. So this power means more of a reduction of energy, correct?
Or negative energy, yeah.
Negative
positive
energy.
Side, they want to keep, they want to keep the positive energy for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and what Taichi Ono into the production system is saying is that just because I take out the burdens, that doesn't mean that it's going to lead to cost reduction, which companies should be always cautious about. It might lead to cycle time reduction, but that doesn't connect to cost reduction. And this is something, right, I wanted to discuss a little bit more. What Ono is saying is that, okay, I have these 3 processes, which has a cycle time of 100 seconds or so. I did a Kaizen that each process reduces 25%, 25 seconds. So all 3 processes become 75 seconds of cycle time. That's means cost reduction. And Ono is saying, well, it depends. It depends, because if the takt time was 100 seconds and I just take out 25 seconds from each and every process, now I converted the wasted motion or waste of process into waste of waiting.
Wow, correct.
So what's the point? I still keeping the waste. I didn't change. Cost-wise, I didn't impact anything. If the let's say tough time is still 100%, but then some people might say, oh, but I can run it 75 seconds now. All three processes at 75, so I can produce more. Then it becomes the overproduction, right? So I run at 75 seconds when the actual takt time is 100%, 100 seconds, then I'm overproducing. This is also another, and potentially the biggest waste that Ono hates and Toyota production hates. So it doesn't lead to cost reduction. So from the cost point of view, these concepts, we shouldn't be satisfied with doing shoriki. Yes, it might become better in terms of safety and stuff, but Ono is saying don't get satisfied with that result. Let's connect this to cost reduction. And that's why Ono is challenging Shojin, reduction of manpower. So once we do some kind of Kaizen or automation that reduces the cycle time or the effort of the people, we should be able to see that on cycle time, and we should think about rebalancing the line. And that's exactly what happened here, is that I kept the takt time 100 seconds, and I added the 25 seconds of work that the original operator on C had and moved it forward. And I created this kind of new balance of line. The discussion that happens a lot in our community is that, okay, so what should we do with this 0.1 labor left over here? And the traditional thinking will say, well, it's still 2.1 or 2.3 labor contents that I have, so let's just keep 3 people. I mean, you cannot do it 2 people. Let's keep 3. And because I have 3 and one guy has very little amount of work, might as well rebalance the whole thing and say everybody keep 75% of the workload. That's fair. Is traditional thinking. To the production thinking, my boss always says like, okay, well, 0.1 left over, that should be the next target to Kaizen. How can I reduce or eliminate that 0.1 amount of work? Why do I need to have 0.1 person of operator there? That's not fair, because that guy is wasting 90% of his or her time waiting again. So challenge ourselves to Kaizen additional 0.1 seconds of Kaizen. And that's what the basic thinking of TPS is to continuously improve. So every time I have this 0.1 seconds of or whatever partial workload, we always challenge ourselves to do more Kaizen to reduce the manpower. And I'm just talking about this 0.1 and stuff is simple mathematics that we always use. Let's add all the cycle times, right? That's a sigma CT. And then divide by takt time. That should give you theoretical manpower. But then there's always this point something left over. How should we treat that? We should always drive Kaizen. And then what's important is the third concept that Ono and TPS guys are saying is to always think about the flexible manpower. And that is that, okay, I took out that third operator from that cell. A lot of company will rush to, let's just fire that guy because we don't need that person, according to the data. But that's something that Ono and Toyota is saying is that, no, we cannot rush to that kind of firing process because that might not be the right solution. So they will come up with different way of utilizing this freed labor. One answer will be, let's allocate this gentleman or woman to a different line where the demand is growing. Right? We don't have to hire somebody from outside. We can reallocate the personnel. We might ask the gentleman to become a material handler. Very often I see factories where they're mixing material handler and operator, but every time they run out of materials, the operator have to stop the line, go to the warehouse, pick up the material and come back. That's a huge downtime. So instead of having a downtime like that, have a material handler that constantly brings the material based on the pull. And by standardizing that work, we will be able to run the line with less inventory, which means that It can shrink the size of the production area, and that also gives you reduction in additional cycle time reduction. Or as a team leader, Toyota has a team leader every, I heard is 4 to 6 operators. They will have a team leader who will come and help the operators. They will come to do Kaizens, and they will do the training of the people. So it's very important, I would say, the central piece of position that creates Toyota production system possible. And you know, my boss goes to a new factory and he never asked to add a team leader. He always do Kaizen. I take some people out and then I train them and put them back in as a team leader. And that's a very good use of using this additional manpower, because now people know that, okay, I'm covering more work, but I also have somebody to help me. So as soon as I pull my arm on, that person will come and help. So that will give me a little bit more trust among the people to say, okay, before, when I have a problem, I had to deal with it. Now, when I have a problem, I have somebody to help me. It's much safer environment and much more respect of people environment. And we highly recommend to have a team leader to help us. Another option is to keep that operator as a substitution operator. When somebody is sick, when somebody needs a day off, they can, I mean, within the HR regulations, of course, but they can take a day off. And, you know, but at the same time, you don't want the production line to suffer because somebody is absent. These people who should be substituted by a different operator. And, you know, a lot of cases like I've seen is like, okay, somebody needs to go to a training. Use a substitute operator to cover the position. In the meantime, that gentleman or the woman can take a full training, right? You don't want to be a situation where, oh, I have some of the people taking training and I have less people on the production. That is very silly condition, which I have seen in my past. You don't stop the line because of the training. Other way to use the operator is to train the operator to become a trainer. Usually we take out the best operator first, who might become a team leader, but also that person might be a dedicated trainer because that person have worked with that process or that particular skills. So instead of having a trainer who never actually done the work, you can have this gentleman or woman to become a real trainer based on their experience. And that will definitely help develop the future generation people to gain the skills. Like I said before, Japan is right now facing a crisis of aging population. But one of the key positions that they're finding for these aged worker is to become a trainer to pass along some of the skill set to the next generation. To be honest, Toyota actually, I would say a decade ago, they were in panic mode because they did so many Kaizens and they said they don't need to hire people. But then they recognized that, you know, they have so many old people, but they don't have a younger generation to keep going. And training became a big issue. And so skill set should not belong to people because then it's just the individual skill. They need to convert the individual skills to organizational skill. Then it becomes a company can be successful. And a best way to do it is to release the highest skill, experienced skill operator from the shop floor and let them focus on training. Very often I ask this free manpower to become a Kaizen specialist. After I have a team leader, I have somebody to do material handling. Having one former operator as a Kaizen specialist will really help. For example, I need to make a lot of material racks and stuff like that. Asking engineer to do it is always good, but also it's also simple assembly of devices and racks. Then having these additional operators come and help us does help a lot. And they also knows from their point of view, like when I'm doing the rack and doing the simulation, instead of asking the operator, the former operator is building it. So I ask that person to give me feedback, and they will give you a really good feedback than asking the engineers who never actually built it. And along with that is the prototype assemblers, right? A lot of cases, some of these release operators go to a line where they are testing a new product in Toyota, and they, by giving these experienced operators to build the next generation product, they come up with very creative ideas and suggestions on the manufacturability of the product. And that way they can change the design on the early stages, and they don't have to suffer after introducing the production. And that's the real cost saving that they trying to do, is to free the current direct labor, get the experience, and position those experienced operators to the future generation so that they can design a product that's more easy to assemble. And that gives them a huge advantage on, and that's the cost saving that Toyota is driving. And that's how they save cost. They don't fire the immediate laborers. Now, once they hire, it's the company's responsibility to keep them. But the future generation of the products, it needs to be easy to build. So I use this story as sort of like this example of the Japanese chess games that we play. The biggest one big rule difference from any other type of this kind of board game that I've seen is that every time I take out the opponent pieces, the player can keep those pieces and redeploy as your allies. Right? So I always think, of, I'm playing against my waist. Every time I take this piece away from the waist, I keep that piece in my hand, and I can redeploy them.
No worries.
Sometimes I want to have, a new machine. But, the step one might be I take out the pawn, I took out the operator from the line. But now I can redeploy this operator to become, okay, you're going to become a Kaizen specialist on this machine so that I can help. Or you're going to become a materials handler so that this machine don't have to have a downtime because of materials. And eventually I will take out that machine out of the process to say, okay, I can reuse this machine for a new product. So the player is the manager, and he or she always constantly needs to think about, okay, what's my business need is, what resource I need to free out, how can I flexible play my pieces to get to the ultimate business need. They are not going direct. Even if I want additional materials or additional machine or something, they will play strategically to say, okay, the first piece that came out was an operator. Maybe I don't need that piece right now, but I can redeploy somewhere on the shop floor to eventually lead to the Kaizen that I need to hit. And the step-by-step, small incremental step is what they are doing, and that is Kaizen. And this goes back to this flexible manpower concept, is that people is by far the most flexible asset you will have. Machine is a machine, or material is a material. It's not that flexible to be used on a different intention, but people can. And that's why if they want to keep these people, is to train the operators to become multiple skill levels. And then once they become a multiple skill level operator, they will challenge the people to, self-promote themselves to become team leaders, group leaders, superintendent, to become more like a manager role. And by constantly challenging these people to be flexible to become a manager, the whole company becomes more flexible. And so they don't see it as an isolation of labor and management. They see it as sort of a continuous flow of people development. And we always need to think and design a process that has a continuous flow. And that comes to this concept of isolated islands, right? if I have a lot of isolated islands, unfortunately, people will be used in this isolated island conditions, and we will not gain the full maximum capabilities. In fact, if I go back to that theoretical manpower calculations, a lot of cases that will happen is station 1 has 0.8, station number 2 might have 0.7, and station number 3 might have 0.3 amount of work, and everybody's wasting their time. But then I connect this large island. Yeah, I can maximize to say, hey, look, I have 3 operators here, but if I add 0.8, 0.7, 0.3, it's only 2 point or 1 point something, so 1.8. So, you know, maybe I can run the line with 2 operators. But if I really want to create this island, we automatically face the need that, okay, but now these 2 operators will cover 4 machineries here. I need these operators to have a multiple skills to cover these different machines and technologies. And also, what's going to happen is, okay, I'm going to have 1 supervisor or some manager to manage this 2-person or 3-person in the cell. They need to know every technologies, and they need to know different requirement on the machine, not just the machine, but material flows and everything. So they need to be, the managers had to be trained on different functionalities. And we always try to add to make it more flexible. And this connects to the last concept of this shojin, which means symbol-wise little man. And this original concept comes from the Confucian, sorry, I cannot pronounce it. It's That's easy to say in Japanese, it's Jukyo, but it's come from the ancient China. And ancient, this Confucian is always comparing this ideal leaders versus this little man. The little man is all those people who only copies the rituals, somebody who only copies the ceremonies, and somebody who never understands the philosophy behind it, right? We see a lot of that in TPS. Okay, somebody is copying the board, somebody is copying the Kanban, somebody is copying the Ando, but what's the philosophy behind the system? And unless you understand the system, the tools might not be used correctly. And also, the Confucius is saying is nobody is born to be an ideal leader. It's every day they practice the activities in the right mindset will develop the people, and anybody can develop themselves to become an ideal leader is what Confucius is saying. So the little man is those people who refuses to develop themselves, right? People who only can reach the ideal leader is the guy that challenges themselves to develop, and the little men that don't try to develop is not is considered as a little man, which will not help the Confucius thinking.
That's because
so from the
so the best I mean, I like what you said, because the little man does not understand the philosophy or the theory behind it. He just copies, right? But what Toyota says, what you are explaining to me is, if you understand the philosophy, then you will try to improve yourself based on the philosophy. Philosophy will not change, but everything else can change so that you can mentally evolve yourself. Am I understanding you correctly, sir?
Yes, sir. Like, for example, right, in not just Toyota's case, but my boss, right? I see a very good example in Toyota, and I copied it in a different place, and he'll look at me like, "Why are you copying?" And I would say, "Oh, look, I saw a perfect example there," and he was challenged me to say, "Make it better." Right? It's a different application here, but you've seen a good example there. But why don't you make it better when you implement it somewhere else? And he, just because I made a copy, he won't be satisfied. He will be really angry to say, "Why are you copying? Why don't you improve it?" He's always missing. And you know, I made that mistake a couple of times to say, "Okay, my job is not copying. I need to understand what the thinking is, but there's always a way to improve it." How? And that's the concept of this little man. Is like they don't want little men. They don't want copycats in the organization. They want those people who understand philosophy to go further level. And that's what Toyota, it's not TPS. That's what the core philosophy of Toyota is saying. Good thinking, good product. So they always want people who always thinks to improve further level. And that's what Toyota's production system is about. And it goes back to the question that you mentioned about this effort, right? I don't think effort is necessarily a bad thing, right? Effort to think is not bad, right? We should think more. We should always put ourselves in the circumstances to think. And it's not thinking about what to do next, right? What's my work next? I mean, that kind of routine type of effort or negative effort, we should reduce or eliminate. But how can I improve this process better? How can I reach the ideal condition? Is a type of effort that Toyota guys will say, always do it. Don't come up with easy, lazy options. And, and so I don't think, like a lot of people might say, oh, this AI will give us a solution to the problems and stuff. And Toyota will say, no. Giving us a solution by somebody is not the right way. The people always need to think. And that's the only way. That's the way that they want to go. And so they will, the people will continuously think. So, yeah, a lot of TPS coaches that I met was some of people get frustrated with them because they will always say, well, tell me the answer. And the coaches will look at you and say, no, the answer is something that you need to come up with. I'm giving you questions.
I recollect all this when Sensei Masaki Mai would never give me an answer. He would ask me to think.
Yeah.
I appreciate
and they know. Yeah, and those coaches know the answers, right?
Yeah, of course they know.
It's not like they don't know, right? And a lot of people think that they don't know anything, and they will copy this habit to say, okay, these coaches never give me an answer. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna randomly ask questions. But these guys knows the answer, and they know that if they give the answer, it goes fast, short term, but long term they will suffer. So they will come up with questions. Did you see the problem correctly? Why are you suffering? Did you understand the problem? And by asking those questions, Socrates method, they think that we will get it and we will come up with a solution, and that means more better development. Yeah, and so, yeah, and this is the part that it's not like they are asking questions randomly. They are not asking questions without the vision or the solution to a problem. They have something, and they are not asking questions because they are having easy, lazy time. They are thinking very cautiously what question will be the best so that the people will find their own way. And that's exactly what I think the Confucius have done. I think the same thing is happening on the West side with the Socrates I mentioned. I mean, those people knows the solution, but they also know that the simply giving answer is not the best way to develop the people. And that's what's going on every day on the shop floor is why is really what. But once you get comfortable with the system, it's very addictive, right? Because I don't want to hear any answers, right? I was talking with another sort of person, and I know that person worked in a process where my boss challenged me on how can I visualize a problem better. And I know they have a solution there, but I always said the first thing to that person is, don't tell me the answer. I heard your experience, but don't give me the exact answer. Now I'm getting hints from you, the conversation that I'm having with the struggle approaches and how they spend the day. That's enough hints for me. Let's stop it here. The solution I will come up by myself because that's the most important part. And they understand that, right? And I know they know that if I'm taking time to struggle or taking time to think, they are perfectly fine with it. Of course, they're not going to ask you to think like 3 years or long time, 1 week, no way. But they will come back at the end of the day and say, what's the progress? Okay. Have you tried something? And if I haven't tried something, they will say, whoa, 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 hold on. Yes, you are thinking something very important, but you should have tried something right now, right? And tested. Failure is fine, but not trying anything is not good. So continuously think, but also continuously try, test it. If it didn't work, that's fine. Let's try again. And that's the Kaizen mentality. And that's the concept of the shorting is they don't want copycats. They don't want those little men. They want those thinkers, triers, and, challengers.
Excellent.
So now I gave you a bunch of story about this shorting. So let me try to use my framework and sort of summarize this thing, right? Because I've been talking about the mechanism, system, and structure.
Yes.
And I think it connects to process level. Let's think about the shoriki. Let's think about the reduction or the elimination of the burdens that we need to do. Process have to be simple. Process have to be easy for the people to perform. It cannot be too over complex, and we need to provide the right tools, solutions to overcome these burdens. Sometimes it might be automation, but a lot of cases we can do Kaizen about it. And pieces of karakuri or simple visualization might help to improve the process. When it comes to mechanism, when it comes to the number of people, always think about reducing them, because that will challenge us to be more productive. That will challenge us to be easier to see the problems. That will highlight the needs for the Kaizens. Just keep, and a lot of cases we see that okay, let's add people. Let's add people as a number one solution, but no, based on this thinking, no, let's keep least amount of people on the direct mechanism level. Standardized work will always challenge what is the minimum number of people required for this demand, and we only provide direct labor level the minimum number of people. A lot of places are rushing to add allowances, this calculation of like 80% workload level or whatever level. And they will come up with all kinds of crazy reasons why you need that. For example, people need to go to the bathroom. That's why we need to have 20%. I'm sorry, but nobody goes to the bathroom 20% of the time. If they need to go, but then let's talk about the system. Let's have some flexibility in the way people go. So if somebody needs to go to the bathroom, Ono is very clear in his book that, okay, the team leader can jump in. Team leader should jump in and cover the time for the people to go and use the bathroom. Now, they do think about how can I reduce the chances of people going to the bathroom. So they will say, okay, the standard work time, every 2 hours, they will get a break. They think about the location of the bathroom and the number of the bathroom, though that, within the break, everybody has a chance to use the bathroom without being stressed, waiting in line and, waiting for the, the place to wash the hands and stuff like that. No, they don't want that, or long distance to walk to the toilet. No, they don't want that to happen. They will place the toilet everywhere in the factory so that people can take it comfortably during the wait time, the rest time. So when it comes to the system level, I already mentioned that we need to think about how can we make it flexible. And that's why we need to have team leaders. We need material handlers. We need this extra headcounts to cover for different situations, such as absenteeism or sending people to training. Toyota is saying, let's keep those people. Let's keep it. I mean, they are not saying to add those people, right? There's a standardized work should define how many labor are required, and they're not gonna think about adding more people than that number of people that they originally planned. But whatever people that are freed through Kaizen activities should be kept and they should be used for the stabilization of the process, or they should be used to train the people, or they'll be using for the future competitive advantage of developing a better process, which means Kaizen, more Kaizen, or developing a new product. These people are very, very capable of doing that kind of inputs. And it's very interesting to see how Toyota uses some of the direct labor is converting into a Kaizen monster, I call it. And that doesn't come, it's not just reallocation. It's not just flexibility. It comes with training.
Yes.
Right? They don't these people will not directly go to a new position. Before they're getting a chance to go to a new position, they will go through a thorough training. If they have to get some kind of degrees, they will say, let's get some degrees, right? If you want to become a team leader or group leader, you need an engineering degree. Then they will say, oh, hey, this operator, you're a very high skilled operator. You are very flexible manpower into the skill level. Your next step is challenge yourself to become a higher position, but here are requirements. You have to take these courses. You have to get this kind of degrees. And they will say, look, you should challenge yourself to get it because your capability is there. It's just this additional confirmation of your skill and knowledge is required. And they will challenge them. They will challenge them to get that kind of skills. And that's the development of people. They always want additional people to think and Kaizen and do better. And they always have the structure to train. And that's the real meaning, I think, in terms of respect and in terms of empowerment, is that it's not like loosely defined. On the shop floor level, it's very how can I say, it's strict to some degree, like mechanism is very strict. But then whatever they've freed up is used in a way to further develop the people to a higher level. And that's my understanding of how Toyota is designing the people power. And that's how they use these concepts. Very sounds very similar and confusing, but that's how I organize it to understand it. And that's something we are trying to always implement.
Obe-san,
So
thank you very
end
much
of the
for this.
presentation.
Just I want to see the last slide. Can you show me the last slide?
Oh, sorry.
So that so that
Sorry.
I can so that let me try to tell you what I understood so that you can authenticate that I understood you well, because you're a very good teacher and I'm a very curious student. So first of all, you have to go the way I explain, you explained to me, reduction of burden. So that's where you start, reduction of burden, and then you gradually move that reduction of burden, and then you find that the energy that is required, not the energy for thinking, the energy of thinking still remains, and that is required that the physical energy, etc., you try to reduce it, and then that is the burden of the people. And then you go to reduction of manpower. Reduction of manpower does not mean you're removing somebody out of the job, but what the job was initially required to be done by 3 people, you do Kaizen and see whether it can be done by 2 people. And then the one person who is left free is not removed, but he is utilized further. And since it has been utilized and you don't throw out people, you will be able to put them into as flexible people in a larger island that can look after various processes in that larger island, because this flexible manpower is available. And then by doing this, you're developing the people to think more, and as they think more, there is a career path for them where they can develop themselves, get their degrees, and occupy several posts of a team leader, the manager, the Kaizen specialist, etc. Have I captured? Am I right to at least?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think what you summarized nicely, right? Because we all human beings have exact same amount of time and same amount of energy, or I mean, some people are physically more stronger than this, but basically we are the same, right? Are we using that time and energy on something negative, or are we using that time and energy on something more positive? How can I convert from the negative to the positive is what I think Toyota is thinking. Yeah, process level, make it simple, make it easy, then rebalance the line, free the resources, make sure you allocate these free resources to a place to make the system more stable, and the system can focus more on improvements. And to do that, let's keep developing the people. So I think you just summarized nicely, and that's what they're doing. Is like they
And
have.
that is
I think somebody.
respect for
That's
people.
something. Right, and somebody said it. Quoted Mr. Cho, former president, is saying is that TPS is run by normal people, right? It's not like they are run by supermans. They are run by normal people. It's just that people don't waste their time. It's just that they don't work on lifting heavy stuff. Those kind of things are handled by devices and those kind of kaizens. And the free labor is strictly balanced so that whatever extra will be used to gain more benefits in the long term.
Excellent. Thank you
So
very
it's
much
a
for that.
yeah, it's
Yeah, so it's so nice that the concepts are so clear. So yes, I think you can stop sharing the screen and we can talk for 2 minutes, because I really enjoyed what you said. Couple of things you can stop sharing, sir, so that we can talk for 2 minutes.
Yeah. Sorry, we can continue talking. I don't know why, but
yeah, we can
somehow
continue talking. You have to just say stop sharing, no problem at all. You know what I like about you saying copying? You see, when you use a photocopying machine and you take the original and then you copy the original, okay? So I think you can stop sharing this also, sir, so that we can see each other's face. Yes. So what I was, when you were talking, I was thinking, I'm also a human being, so I also think, okay. So when you're talking, I said, when you have an original, use a photocopier, you get a copy. Then you use the same copy for another copy, and then use that for another copy. By the time you come to the 100th copy, it will not have anything to do with the, or it will be so faded, everything will be diluted. I think that is what the little men do. And then little men will blame, they will blame TPS for it, they will blame lean for it. That is, they'll blame everything except the core thing which you taught us today is allow the people to think, challenge them, and move them upwards so that you empower them. Empower in the sense of empowering them to think, take the challenges, go try it out in the Gemba, and don't get mixed up with Kaizen or Kayakuki. Just keep the philosophy. That's what I like. If you understand the philosophy, you will stop copying. If you understand the philosophy, you'll start improving. That's what I understand from this presentation. And I love what you said.
Yes. Yes. And that's something I think, like Toyota is saying, like, I don't think every operator outside Japan had got chance to visit Japan, right? Before they start. They will start doing Kaizen first. And once you start doing Kaizens and, they get a chance to see what's happening in Japan, because they don't need copycats. They need somebody who improves and thinks. And once they reach some level, they start introducing to, seeing different places. From the beginning, they don't tour around and say, okay, memorize these Kaizens and do it in your place.
So
focus on your work.
I love that. So you don't start with a Japanese tour to start a factory, right?
Right. Because that's my boss's thinking on PPSs. Right, he got a lot of requests to tour, and he was like, "Why you want to tour first when you don't know what to see?" And to understand what to see, you got to do the Kaizen by yourself. And I know that tour is a very popular way of doing things, but again, if you have a copycat mentality and do a tour, you just copy the tools from any fancy factories, and you miss the philosophy, right?
Thank you very much, Obe-san. And
Thank
I think,
thank you very much for the opportunity.
oh, I love this. And I hope people will stop copying and start working and then go and see what is actually to be done. Thank you very much. And I'm going to stop recording.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you are going to come again for another show, which is called the Single Digit Minute Exchange of Thoughts, which is you will have another guest who had come on series 1, and we can talk about it and make things much more clearer. So we will do that. I have started episode 1. Episode 2 will be in December. Episode 3 will be in January. Episode 4. So I invite you to come, and we will have somebody who would be talking, and we will be talking, and it is single digit minute exchange of thought. So in less than 10 minutes, you'll have to exchange of thoughts, right? Okay. So
thank you, Dr. M, and thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it. And I look forward for more.
Dr. Mohan has started thinking. Okay, thank you very much.